Yeah, at some point we should reach out to them and say, hey, this is what we're doing.
Good evening. I'm Ben Beatty, Chief Wellbeing Officer and Hazing Prevention Coordinator at Bowling Green State University. Thank you for attending Never Leave Anyone Behind, part of our events taking place during National Hazing Prevention Week. I would like to thank our student leaders, especially our student-led committee comprised of representatives of club sports, athletics, student organizations, and fraternities and sororities for planning the week's events and information sessions focused on hazing prevention and education. I would also like to recognize all our BTSU students in attendance, as well as students from across the state of Ohio joining us both in person and on our live stream. You represent fraternity and sorority life, athletics, residence life, club sports, undergraduate student government, and other student organizations. Thank you for being here and for your work in hazing prevention. At this time, I would like to invite Kyle Calvi and Mark Miller, executive board members of the Interfraternity Council, to the stage.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kyle Calvi, and I'm the Interfraternity Council president. The Interfraternity Council would like to publicly announce that we are partners and supporters of the iamstonefoltz Foundation, and we would like to donate $1,000 of our money to the iamstonefoltz Foundation.
Thank you, gentlemen. Two years ago, BTSU student Stone Foltz passed away following an off-campus hazing incident. Today, we are joined by Stone's parents, Shari and Cory Foltz, and other speakers from the iamstonefoltz Foundation. Thank you for being here. Before we get started, I want to share that this session will contain content related to hazing and student death. We understand these topics will be difficult for all of us. Please feel free to step out at any time. Resources and information about counseling services are located at the exits of the ballroom. Thank you again for being here and for your work in eradicating hazing from college campuses across the state and nation. Please join me now in welcoming representatives from the iamstonefoltz Foundation to the stage.
Thanks, Ben. My name is DJ Williams, and I'm the president of the iamstonefoltz Foundation. Also, Stone is my nephew. And it's pretty hard to be here today. I hope you can understand if you see some emotion coming from us. I could tell you that Stone loved his campus. He loved being here. That's the only reason we're back. And it's hopefully to try to share some information with you that you can take away and either share with somebody else because it doesn't apply to you, or you actually absorb it and do it yourself, and you make a change. This generation can do that, and we're counting on you. So we're going to spend the next hour or so going through some material. Some of it may be repeat for you. I hope it is. In other cases, it may be brand new. But either way, we hope that there's something in here that you can take away. Okay, so let's get started. Ben already mentioned that the content in here could be difficult. I promise you it will be difficult. You will see videos, you will hear things, you will see things that you probably don't see on a regular basis. I'd like to apologize for that, but we can't. We have to share with you the truth in order for you to understand what actually happened to Stone. So, Hazing Prevention Week probably has taught you a lot of things about what hazing is. We like to boil it down to something fairly simple, not the definition that comes in the Ohio law, but something a little bit different. And it's committing acts against an individual or forcing an individual into committing an act that creates risk for harm, physical or mental. I think that's the part that people don't really understand, and that's why there's a lot of question about what is hazing, why does it happen, is this small little act hazing or not? But it's all because they're trying to join an organization. Okay, that's where it gets to be a little bit different from a bullying situation. The main thing here also is to understand that this includes coercing another to consume alcohol or a drug. In the state of Ohio, Collins Law was passed shortly after Stone passed. Unfortunately, it wasn't done sooner. So the gentlemen that participated in this act were not sentenced and punished according to this law. Now it's a felony. That means potentially you get charged the same things that those guys did, and there would have been a lot more jail time. So hazing is a second-degree misdemeanor up to 60 days in jail, fines up to $500. But as soon as you add alcohol and drugs to it, it becomes a felony. In Stone's situation, it would have been a felony. And there's also another component that got added, which is failing to report. So if you're in a position of faculty, staff, coach, and you're aware of these type of things happening within your organization, you have a responsibility to report. If not, you end up with some potential jail time as well, and a first-degree misdemeanor. So let's talk about hazing by organization. Everybody thinks it's primarily Greek life. It is. Greek life is way up there at the top. But athletic teams are actually at the very top. Part of the issue that we see here is that there's several different types of clubs in here that are also hazing, but it's not as widely reported. It's primarily Greek life and athletic organizations. The one thing to keep in mind that maybe some of you that are freshmen, how many are freshmen? Raise your hand. Hi. Okay, you were probably hazed, 50% of you were probably hazed in high school. You may not have called it hazing, and so you don't know or you expect that these things are going to happen here in college too when you join something, right? So when they start to do things to you, you're not recognizing it. And what we want to talk to you about are things like this. These are two gentlemen that actually survived hazing. One ended up with 7 or 8 stitches because they played football in a hall with no pads, no helmets, no nothing. The gentleman on the right, we've actually met, and unfortunately, he was beaten so bad that he ended up in a hospital. Had no idea how he'd gotten there. That's all from a beating. So the type of examples I'm going to show you next actually happened on your campus. Every single one of these were done in the Pike fraternity. The Pike fraternity that's no longer here thanks to the leadership at this university. They're not allowed on this campus. But every single one of these things happened. A vast majority of them happened to Stone. Others were done to other pledge brothers. This example, all of the ones listed here, are additional ones that we've heard about. We've heard about it from other students, other universities. Some universities actually list all these things out there so you're more aware of what is considered hazing. I want you to remember one thing here, and that's the idea that things start small. Pretty innocuous type things, right? Wear letters, wear a suit. You know, only the pledges of the new members can do that, right? So you set them aside. You start to isolate them. Here's my thing with that. Stop doing it. Whatever you have a pledge do or a new member do, have the whole organization do it. Now you're not isolating someone. So this is a grooming process. What happened to Stone started out very small. The one thing I'm going to back up here real quick. On this list, it's not one of these things and done. It's a series of these things. So pick 3 or 4 or 5, and it's added on top of each other. The sleep deprivation was horrendous. But you add that to all of the other acts here, and licking urinals. How gross and disgusting is that? All because you want a signature. The intent of the signature made sense, right? You want them to get to know the whole organization, so you want to have the interaction with the people. But to have them lick a urinal or a dirty shower just to get a signature doesn't mean I know that new member or that active member any better than I did before I started licking the urinal. So what you have to understand is on this grooming process that it starts small and you're conditioning that person to trust you, that you're going to be there for them. In the case of Stone, didn't happen. Not a single person stood up for him. Not a single person called 911 until he was in a whole nother situation. He was away from the off-campus house, but no one stood up for him. That probably breaks our heart more than anything, except for the fact that when they took him to his apartment, dropped him off, and before they left, they had to make sure they took a video. They took a video of a man dying on a couch, and they left him alone. We have two young women here tonight that are going to tell their story, that were the ones that had the courage to call. I'm asking you to be a good bystander and stand up for somebody. So when you talk about this grooming, what you're finding is that the new members really want to be part of that new organization. So active members have what they want, and they'll do anything to get it. But as soon as you start to add alcohol and drug use to the equation, the imbalance of power is accelerated. It increases dramatically. That's the part that you have to kind of remember, right? The one thing Stone wanted to do was get through that night. He had no idea what was going to happen to him, but he wanted to get through it because he'd been through so many things before that, and he thought this was one of the last things that he had to do before he became an active member. He just picked the wrong brothers. He picked the wrong group. And all his friends before that are stand-up men. So we never thought that there was going to be an issue with him selecting friends. So I want you to check yourself. What do you think? Is hazing harmless? Is it necessary to earn membership? I can't tell you the number of people, adults, really, like older than you guys, adults, tell me all the time, right? You can't just give it to them. Why not? They got to earn it. Why do they have to earn it? Why do they have to go through these things to earn membership? When you go interview for a job, you don't have to go through a series of painful activities to go get a job. So why are you doing it to yourselves? It's something I don't understand. So what else might you think? Is it harmful or abusive? Maybe you just think it's kids being kids. I had a coach tell me that. Well, it's just boys being boys. Maybe it's fun. I had a guy that was hazed tell us that he thought it was good for him. He thought it was good for him. He needed to grow up. My response to him was, well, maybe you're not ready for any organization. Because if you need this type of activity to happen to you, that's not right. Stand up for yourself. So we're going to show you some things. That's the education component on hazing. Hopefully that was old news to you. Maybe a little bit new news when I talk about Stone. But in order to talk about Stone, the best person to do that is Shari Foltz, his mother. Shari? I'll move it.
Thank you, DJ. It was really hard to come here tonight.
Did everybody hear?
Can you hear me?
There you go.
Awesome. It was really hard to come here tonight. The many times that we've driven through Bowling Green, it's been painful every night. Every day we come through here. We tested this, so hey, I don't have a good voice. Soft. Can you hear me? Everyone hear me? Yeah? All right. Tonight wasn't any better. I remember the first time we brought Stone to BG to show him Bowling Green in the campus, to decide which school he wanted to go to. He immediately chose BG. He didn't even go to any other campus to tour it. He immediately fell in love with Bowling Green. In the fall of 2019, his freshman year, we dropped him off here, and I remember that day vividly. We helped him unpack, and we took pictures in his dorm. I still have those pictures, and that's all I have, is the memories. I'm not gonna be a mom and just sit up here and lecture you. But I am gonna tell you there's true reasons I'm here tonight and everyone else. I made a promise to Stone. When I walked into the ICU and I saw all the tubes, and Stone, who didn't look like who he was, I walked up to him and I told him, I won't let this happen to anybody else. I will not let this happen to any other family. I will not let this happen to any other student. Why are we doing this to each other? Why? The first reason I'm here is that promise, and I'm going to keep that promise to him. And if it means coming back to every university every day, I will continue to do that, and so will everyone else up here. There's no reason that we have to be here. We're not getting paid to do this. The reason we're here is to teach you, to educate you on hazing and on alcohol intoxication. I know you're sitting there, many of you, thinking, this won't happen to me. It was the same thing I'm sure Stone had going through his head. I'm tough, I can get through it. He even told me, Mom, I have one last night and then I will be in the fraternity. That one night, the Big Lily event, the ritual, that was planned. That one night took my son away. It is you guys, all of you out there, that can make that change. It's up to you, not us, you, to make that change. It's your generation. We can't do it. But we can sit here and we can tell you Stone's story over and over. I want you to close your eyes for a second. I want you to think of your closest loved one, whether it's your mom, your dad, your sister or your brother, a good friend, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever you love the most that you could not live without. You wake up in the morning. You can open your eyes. You get a phone call. That loved one is in cardiac arrest, and you have to drive 2 hours to be with them. Then we get to the hospital. I'm pretty much told it's not a good chance. He needs to go to Toledo Hospital because we can't help him here. We're told that he's going to be life-flighted. Then I was told I couldn't ride in there with him. Do you guys understand that pain? That loved one that you were thinking about is no longer here. All you have is memories. That's it. That's all you have. Our lives have changed. This isn't a life you want to have, I promise you. Every night and morning that I wake up, Stone's the first thing on my mind. There's not a day that doesn't go by that I don't think of him. Just wish for that one more time to see his smile. But I can't. And why? Because of the senseless things that you guys do to each other. Why? To belong to an organization? What do you guys think? That's cool? It's not. You guys think you can drink a full bottle of liquor? You can't. And you should not be making anyone do that. The things that are out there in the news every single day that I see on hazing, it just breaks our heart over and over. The Band-Aid is ripped right off of us. We see things from Boston College recently in the news. New members were told they had to drink until they vomited. Then what did they do? They thought it was a good idea for those individuals to puke in that bag and then carry that bag around their necks. That just happened. Why? What do you find funny about that? Why? I don't understand. But if you want to be someone who loses someone, or you even do this to them, you're a hazer, how do you think you're going to feel when you see a family like us? It's not cool. It's not funny. And it doesn't just happen in Greek life, it happens in every organization. Athletics is the #1 organization that has the highest amount of hazing, 47% to be exact. And you'll learn about that coming up. Athletics. Why? There's no reason for it. You're supposed to be a team. Why would another person do this to another individual if you want them and they're part of your team and you do this to them? As I mentioned, the other reason we're here is to save lives. We can tell Stone's story over and over. And my hope is that you'll take Stone's story and you will pass it along. And if you are ever put into that situation, you will remember Stone's story. And you will remember each of our faces up here tonight. As I said, our lives are changed. I was very close with Stone. I usually talk to him on the phone or text every day. He just wanted to belong. He had to put trust into these individuals because they would be his brothers. And why would he ever think they would do this to him? But they continued to do things over and over, which then led to the big little night. He was blindfolded, taken to the basement, and told to drink an entire liter. Chug, chug, forced him to drink it, had to finish it. You guys think your bodies can tolerate that? You'll see assimilation later. You can't. So if you take anything away tonight, because you will learn at least 1 or 2 things tonight that you did not know. But if you can take one thing away tonight, save lives. If you're put in that situation, get out of it. Just think. You could die, and you won't be here tomorrow. Or that friend could die because you didn't choose to call 911. If you see any of the signs, please be smart. Don't be worried about getting in trouble. How are you going to feel if you didn't call 911 and they're dead the next day? There's 30, 40 people in that Pike fraternity that didn't make that phone call, and they could have saved a life, but they didn't. So again, take one thing away. Let's save lives. 2 things. And stand up for each other. You never leave anyone behind. Thank you.
What is your emergency?
Hi,
Someone that we know is non-responsive. He drank alcohol, like a lot of alcohol. So his face is really purple, and his pupils aren't responsive.
Okay, are you positive he's breathing?
Yeah, I'm positive.
Do you see his chest rising up and down?
No, not right now.
Okay, and he's blue?
Yeah.
Okay, then there's a good chance he's not breathing. I want you to get down. Is he on the floor?
She said, does you see his chest rising? I don't see it rising, guys.
Okay, do you know how to do CPR, or do you want me to walk you through it?
Wait! Oh my God.
Okay, listen to me, Maddie. You need to help your friend. Calm down.
Okay. She said, I don't see his chest going up and down.
Do you see his chest?
Oh my God.
Is it rising or not?
Oh my God. No.
We are learning a Bowling Green University student from Delaware County has died after an alleged hazing incident.
It was a life cut short, the alcohol-related hazing death of a college student in Ohio last month.
8 young men are facing criminal charges in the death of a 20-year-old student at Bowling Green State University. Officials say it was the result of a booze-fueled fraternity hazing party, a problem that has plagued colleges for decades.
So I just got this a couple weeks ago. It has his ashes in it and then his name on it. So I feel like I'm closer to him. Stone was the oldest of 3. He has always been a caring individual. He was super kind. He was always looking out for his brother and sister. He always put others first.
He was the person I would call at 4:30 in the morning if I was upset about anything. He was very gentle, very supportive, and he would call me every single day on my way home to make sure I got home safely.
As any parent, you're wanting your kids to start to grow up and make their own decisions. As a dad, I was proud. He was growing up to be an independent young man.
Stone, a sophomore business major who chose to pledge a fraternity in February after deciding not to his freshman year. The initiation process was beyond anything Stone's parents, Shari and Cory, expected.
It's just as simple as that. It's abuse. It's forcing someone to do something that they don't want to do.
Tonight, Stone Foltzes' family says the 20-year-old was apprehensive before he left for an alleged drinking event at a Pi Kappa Alpha fraternity house. A roommate of a fellow pledge telling a local station that pledges were expected to drink a full handle of alcohol, roughly 40 shots, before they could leave.
You know, obviously it was late at night, asleep, and both of us, as any parents, have their phones beside their bed, and we hear our phones ring.
So when I redialed the number, it was the sheriff's office. And they said, "Are you Stone's mom?" And I said, "Yes." They said he was cardiac arrest. So I threw the phone down and I threw it at Cory because I immediately knew what was going on.
So imagine as a parent, when your son and daughter gets hurt, you immediately run over. And if it's a scratch on the leg, you're putting a Band-Aid on it. If it's a skinned up elbow, you're kissing it, and you're helping them immediately. We had 2 hours. We had a 2-hour drive ahead of us.
So the first time I saw him, with all the tubes, I told him I would not let this happen to anybody else. It was the one thing I knew we could do. And we would do it. And I told him that we would make sure that no one would have to go through what he went through.
Governor DeWine has announced new guidelines to protect students at Ohio universities from hazing. The parents of Stone Foltz, the Bowling Green student killed after a hazing incident, were at the State House for that announcement.
This is a very important day.
We saw his parents, the governor, Inter-University Council of Ohio, and all the public university presidents of Ohio stand together and announce new guidelines to fight hazing. One of the guidelines getting the most attention is a zero-tolerance approach. That's something that the Foltz family has been fighting for. There was also talk about creating ways to report hazing, more education, and even automatic dismissal.
What we're trying to do is to prevent it. No one wants to see their kid being walked with chains off to prison. So our push and our goal is to change the culture and to push the zero tolerance so that we can prevent that from ever happening.
It can happen to any student. The piece of him passing was in a window of 60 minutes. And I don't think any student at this point is going to understand that in less than 60 minutes, you could lose your life.
A million years, we never thought this would happen. So as a parent, you need to educate yourself. You as a parent need to get involved and make sure that you're researching it.
You know, it's kind of left, you know, another hole in my heart. You know, I kind of think of my heart as a puzzle, and my puzzle will never be completed. I won't get to make any more memories, go on any more trips, have any more laughs with him, which is very hard.
I miss the father-son time. As he was growing up and I was first-time dad, we kind of learned things together. I was learning how to be a dad at the same time Stone was, you know, learning to be a little boy.
It's a culture change, and we know that's huge, but we are also fighting for the lives of these young adults. We don't want this to happen to them, and we don't want any family member to have to go through what we've been through.
Okay, did you start CPR? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
So I know that video's not easy to watch, especially hearing the 911 call. For our family, it takes us back to that night. Stone's last night had to be extremely frightening for him. Being blindfolded, roughed up, yelled at, forced to drink, throwing up, losing body control, asking to go home. As Stone's father, the one thing that bothers me the most is this so-called brotherhood. These individuals loaded him up in a car, took him back to his apartment and laid him on his couch, and then left him alone. The impact of Stone's death has been deep and wide. I wouldn't be in front of you today if Stone were not hazed. And because of that, I want to share with you the impact of Stone's death so you can see and hear how harmful and devastating these acts can be. To help you see the impacts, I'd like to invite our children up, AJ and Jersey.
So please, by a show of hands, how many of you in here actually have older or younger siblings? So basically everyone. So imagine one of them died and they're no longer with you. Your actions have an impact and hazing effects more than you could ever imagine. We actually lost our big brother, and we will forever have a hole in our hearts. So please, when you're watching this video, just keep in mind that this could be your sibling or even you.
And I didn't really understand why everyone was gone for that. Then she told me to pack and get ready because my aunt was coming to pick me up to head to the hospital. At that time, I knew that it wasn't good. At that time, my aunt was trying to explain as much as she could, but she didn't know that much either. We just knew Stone was not in a very good condition. I haven't really been in a hospital. And walking in there, I saw a ton of people. There's a ton of people in there. And my mom just warned me. You go in there and you're going to see a ton of tubes, pipes, ton of stuff in Stone's mouth. And at that point, I was scared. I knew it wasn't okay. We walked into that room and I knew that that was not Stone. That's not how he acts. That's something wrong with Stone. At that point, I knew that it wasn't going to be good, that they needed to do something. I can't go without him. When I realized that there wasn't a very good chance of him living, I just had to support my parents, and they were trying to support me. And I was very confused what was going on at that point. What happened and why this would happen. Why would someone do this? My parents were trying to explain what it was. They mentioned the word hazing. At that point, I had no clue what that meant. I was so confused. What's hazing? What's that mean? They told me that it means pretty much when someone is getting abused or bullied. At his fraternity that Stone joined, they were telling him, chug, chug, chug. But why? Why did they make him do that? What's the point of that? Why? If he didn't want to do it, then why make him? That's what I did not understand. Why did they make him do it? Why did not other people stand up for him? If he did not want to do it, then why didn't they stop him? Why'd they make him keep going? You don't have to do things you don't want to do. I actually have a couple favorite memories that will always be with me. We would always make TikToks together. He had an account that we made TikToks on. He would ask me when we were hanging out, do you want to make a TikTok? And we would make sibling TikToks. There was a couple that were really funny, and I remember. And I have that video in my camera roll. But one thing I remember is we would always dance. We'd dance together, mess around in his room. We'd hold the cats and play in his room, and we would make videos together. I learned that people can be terrible. Why is hazing a thing? Why does this happen to other people? And why did it happen to my brother? You don't know what it's like to lose a brother until you actually lose one. You lose a family member that you love, and it was because of something like hazing. Hazing's a terrible thing. Hazing does not make any sense. Why do people do it? Why is it? Why do people want to do that? Is it fun? Is it funny? Or entertaining? Well, it's not when someone passes away from it. If you don't help, then you're still participating. It's still your fault. Make sure that sticks in your mind. Why would people do this? It doesn't make any sense. Why do kids have fun doing this? Leaving someone behind? Once they're sick? That's not what humans do. They're supposed to stand up for each other, not treat each other like trash. Like, stand up for each other. Be nice, be kind. Never leave anyone behind.
When I first found out about Stone, I was asleep and Maddie ended up calling me. I didn't really talk to Maddie that much. I had maybe 1 or 2 conversations prior to her calling me. She ended up calling me through Instagram and I responded, and she was talking to me as if it was like a panic attack and something bad was happening to Stone. I couldn't comprehend what she was saying. So I told her, I said, Maddie, calm down. I can't understand what you're saying. What's happening? And she said, Stone is not okay. Stone is not okay. Just repeating it after herself. And I said, what do you mean? She said, go get your parents, tell them about it. And I got up. At first, I was thinking to myself, am I having a nightmare? And I opened my door and go to my parents' room, and my mom and dad were talking, moving around really fast. My mom ended up throwing her phone to the ground. And that's when she found out about what happened to Stone from the police department. And that's when I knew I wasn't dreaming or having a nightmare, was when my mom found out. My dad was rushing around trying to get changed to have a 2-hour drive ahead of us to go to Stone. I was in the car with my parents headed up to Bowling Green. And it was, I'd say, getting into the car, I didn't really want to say anything. At first, all of us were still comprehending what maybe could be the possible outcome of what was going to happen to Stone. Is he going to survive? And what would happen if he did survive? And it was just kind of quiet. At that point, I was getting numerous texts, numerous media coverages, emailing out to me, DMing me on Instagram, asking for my perspective on what's going to happen to Stone and if he died already. And I still haven't even seen him yet at the hospital. And it was, we got to the Bowling Green hospital, and it was only parents allowed. I walked into the hospital, and they said, we're not allowing anyone else other than parents and guardians. Stone was in the room. They were trying to resuscitate him, and he was in a cardiac arrest. And they didn't have the right materials and stuff at Bowling Green, so they had to life flight him in a helicopter to the Toledo hospital. And that's when I was sitting in the lobby by myself with Duncan and his girlfriend at the time. And I got to see Stone for a second as they were transporting him from the Bowling Green Hospital into the helicopter to Toledo. We got to Toledo Hospital. We weren't allowed to see him. They were doing everything they could to keep his heart flowing and drain out as much fluids in the brain and just try to keep him as healthy as possible, to keep his lungs flowing and on a ventilator and his heart pumping blood throughout his body. We weren't allowed to see him. And this is a moment that I'll never forget with my dad. Me and him were just sitting in the guest lobby room close to the room my brother was in the ICU. My mom was walking around pacing, and me and my dad were just sitting there as the sun was rising up. It was early morning, 5 a.m. And I asked my dad, I said, Dad, do you, as your son asking you, do you really think that Stone is going to make it? And he looked at me and said, AJ, I'm going to be completely honest with you. He's just living off of the machines right now. I don't think he's going to make it. And that's when I was like, nothing's really going to happen unless a miracle that God could help us. But you try to see things as everything happens for a reason. I think what we're doing now is changing colleges, changing fraternities, changing sororities. And I think we're saving a lot more lives, and I think that's what Stone is appreciating. Words can't explain the pain that me and my family are going through trying to live on my brother's legacy. It's changed all of our lives. You know, it's holidays, Christmas, it's birthdays, it's the certain time of the year, even September, November, bringing up hazing week and hazing prevention week. It's just trying to keep it calm and not overwhelm ourselves, because we know what's happening. We know what's happening to everyone, but it's changed my family. Why do you guys do this sort of thing to hurt people and put them in a situation they don't want to be in? It's not good on you. It's not good on your family. It's not good if you do such a thing and get in criminal charges or something like that. It's not okay. The last memory I had with Stone before he got hazed was we went to El Vaqueros. It was Maddie, Stone, and I, and we sat down and he pulled out his phone and said, "You guys got heyday?" And I was like, "Of course I do." We compared each other's levels and who was better. And of course, Stone was the better one at heyday than both of us. And he was bragging it in our faces, but it's a memory that I had with him before he passed away. And it's one of those memories that was just a normal memory that's going to be stuck with me the rest of my life now. But if there's one thing that I could tell any of you guys watching this right now, is if you have any siblings or any family or loved ones that you are thinking about right now that could be you going through the situation of being hazed, just know that your loved ones really care about you, and you don't really know what's going to go through that night or if you're being hazed. So just know that to help anyone that's going through that situation that you may see, and just know that there's people that love you out there that really care about you, and being hazed or hazing someone is just not okay.
Thank you for watching our video. Please keep in mind that hazing not only affects the victim, like our brother, but also affects the siblings and the parents.
AJ and Jersey have been through a lot with Stone's death, and I'm very proud of them for that and how they've handled it. And I love them for it. They actually helped me be strong as well. Now I'd like to introduce Maddie Borhall, which was Stone's girlfriend, and Megan Adams, Stone's best friend. Both these individuals were there that night when Stone was left alone in his apartment. And Maddie was one of the last persons to hold Stone in her arms in his last moments. So please have compassion to hear both of their stories and their experiences. Maddie and Megan.
Have fun. Please be safe. Call me if you need me. I'll take care of you if you're too drunk. I love you. He sent me a text back, and that was the last time I ever got a notification from his phone. Hey, Stone is here on the couch. I don't know what to do. Can you come? That was Wade's phone call. I remember running up the apartment stairs. We thought he was just drunk. He's going to be fine. He can just puke, and tomorrow he will feel better. That's what we all think, right? tomorrow will be better. Well, my tomorrow was worse.
Take a second and think of a friend, a loved one. Maybe that's someone in your sorority or fraternity, someone sitting right next to you. You care about them, don't you? You share an unbreakable bond because that's what a sisterhood or brotherhood should look like, right? You enjoy their company and you're so happy that you met them. Life is better with them in it. Nothing can get better than this. Then one night, everything slips away. This friend is gone from your life in a split second, and there's nothing you could have done to save them. The last image of them you hold on to is almost unrecognizable, struggling, helpless, and fighting for their last breath.
I met Stone in one of my classes online. I remember remarking to Megan how perfect he looked. I was going to meet him. It was the fastest connection I ever had with someone. I knew he was very special in my life from the beginning. I simply just didn't know exactly how special he was going to be and the path that was in store for both of us. Immediately, we spent every day together.
I remember the day I met Stone. He was the type of person you would admire from afar. He stood out in a room of people without even trying. He didn't need to say a word. Stone was quiet in a crowd, but everyone was so interested as soon as he had something to say. I was fortunate enough to see another side of Stone that he didn't always show. He was funny. He liked to tease, but not in a way that would embarrass you. Stone made me feel included. When he started dating Maddie, he always let me tag along. Meg can come too, he would remark. His empathy and the way that he would put others before himself was like nothing I have known before. Stone was rare.
Stone had soothing eyes that you would look at and not be able to look away. He had an infectious laugh. He laughed at almost everything I said, even though only half my jokes are funny. He was the kind of guy who appeared bold and confident, but who instead was more so reserved. Stone wanted to fit in and visually be that pretty boy who could just dress perfectly. Once you got to know him, he was the opposite, the exact definition of how looks can be deceiving. He was soft, gentle even, to me and to the people around him. So why do we tell you so much about Stone, what he was like? To remember him? Yes, absolutely. But not just that. I am sure everyone here can relate to a humanistic quality that Stone had. The idea of feeling trapped that night, and the fact that Stone wanted to finish what he had started within this fraternity and just get the whole thing over with. Just as any college student, he cared what people thought and how he made people feel. I recall when he first told me, "I want Pike." I am not one to hide what I feel, and I remember asking him, why Pike? It didn't make sense. Despite my feelings, I did not want to completely shut down his ideas. As time went on and he began new member education, his experience with this fraternity became much worse. He was tormented, made fun of by older members. More than I can remember, he would return home from these events crying to me, and I had to hold him until he calmed down. When I was younger and I heard of hazing, but I never really understood fully what it was. As I learned more, I realized everything that Stone went through, even before and during the meetings, and even when he came back home crying, it was all hazing. I think organizations like to turn a blind eye, as long as the hazing is not deadly. However, we forget the mental toll that hazing can also cause. It does not strengthen bonds or create stronger men, as some may think. Even after all of this, as much as I encouraged him to walk away from Pike and not care what these mean boys had to say, nothing would make Stone budge. "I am almost a member," he would say. The irony is that the abuse does not suddenly dissolve once you become brothers with these boys. I wish I had known the warning signs. What I thought was just conditioning and taunting at the time was a path leading to something much worse.
Stone texted me on March 4th, and he told me that he was scared. He said he would just get through it. Every brother had to. I told him I was scared for him too, and I would be thinking about him the entire night. I wish I would have known what he was about to go through, and that his so-called brothers were about to do demeaning things to Stone and his pledge class. I remember March 4th, 2021, as if it were yesterday. Sometimes it feels like it was yesterday, and I haven't moved on at all. That's how grief works. But no, it's been 2 years since Stone has been selfishly taken away from us. This day was supposed to be exciting for Maddie Stone and me. Maddie and I happened to have Big Little Night for our sorority the same night that Stone had Big Little Night with Pike. I didn't think much about it that night when I received a call from Maddie. I don't think anyone knew the severity of it. I answer the call. She tells me she needs a ride to Stone's house. Apparently he had gotten too drunk at this event. No big deal, I had thought. Alcohol was new to me, but I figured that Stone would be fine. College students always get too drunk. We were too naive, too innocent. Naive to think that Stone's brothers would take care of him. Too innocent to know that the amount of alcohol that Stone was forced to drink was already taking his life away. If we would have known the outcome of that night, we would have never let Stone go. We had bad feelings, but we didn't trust our gut.
I clear the stairs and I open the door. My eyes fall on Stone. He is on his side. His breathing seems steady, not strong. I assess the situation and begin examining him. I need to analyze his health and the variables of his life that will drastically be changed after dialing just 3 numbers. He didn't look good, but it never occurred to me that he could be dying. I look up and grab my phone and tell my friends, we need to call 911. Are you sure? What about Pike? From student to student, we would all hesitate, right? If Stone goes and gets his stomach pumped and he is fine, will this fraternity even accept him? Would they hurt his mental health more, wreaking havoc on him because of an investigation that his drunken state caused? Would I be the girlfriend known as a snitch? I have those thoughts, of course, just as I know about every single one of you would, but I don't hesitate. If he does end up okay, he'll be okay because I chose to call. And his life, I value that over the judgment of people. So I dial.
What we didn't know at the time was how long they left him lying on the couch in his apartment by himself. If they had stayed and called for help, it could have ended differently. We didn't know what he drank and how little time they forced him to finish the bottle. His organs were on the brink of failure, and we were calling in a desperate attempt to save his life.
Stone's chest was rising. He looks pale in the face. I leave the room to make the call. Call starts out slow. I am pacing. I stay steady, reporting information when asked. The operator prompts me to look closely at Stone. I return and lean over him, tracing my hands through his hair as he lays on his side. Then I hear his breathing become shallower. I'm still on the phone. I lean down, realizing his ears began to discolor to a purple. Am I imagining that? No, I wish I was. My voice begins to become shaky. Then the operator informs me, there's a good chance he's not breathing. I stop breathing, and I shut down right alongside him. You can blame me for not acting fast enough, for not calling 911 before I even entered the door. You can blame me for not being able to give him CPR and instead praying over him as if only God could save him now. But we couldn't do more than we did. Unknown to us, but his body was already on auto drive and aspirating by the time we arrived. What appeared to be normal breathing wasn't even breathing at all.
There's a lot of assumptions that are made about Stone. We've heard them all. He couldn't handle his alcohol. He chose to drink that much. It's his fault that he died. Stone ruined Greek life. Except none of these are true. Greek life ruined Stone. Brotherhood shouldn't be cruel. It shouldn't be belittling. Stone, his pledge class, and those before him did not deserve this treatment. Yes, I understand this was a tradition, but traditions aren't always meant to last forever. The Greek life system failed Stone, and has time and time again failed those before him and after him. All he needed was one person, one brother, to stick up for him. None of them cared though, and instead let one of their own suffer. All it took was one person, and Stone didn't get that, but he deserves so much more. Now I want you to think. Would you know that Stone was dying? If you looked down at someone who was your friend, boyfriend, brother, or sister, would you know that their life was slipping away? Do you know the warning signs of a body's blood becoming more and more diluted by alcohol?
Or would you be desensitized due to seeing everyone around you being drunk every weekend to the point of blacking out and throwing up that you don't even realize how bad they actually are? Wade grabs the phone out of my hand. He flips Stone's limp body onto his back and begins following the operator's instructions on resuscitation. A million thoughts are in my mind. I can't even go into that night or the following days I was in the hospital with his family, begging for a miracle, for brain activity. Hope was what I held on to at the time, not the hatred towards the boys who were supposed to protect Stone and be his friend, not the ones who ripped his future away. I stood up for Stone that night. Maybe if someone stood up for him at the event, then he would be sitting next to me, telling you how he barely made it out alive. But no one did stand up for him. No one spoke a word when they were chanting to drink it all, or when he was thrown into his couch and left to die. This whole situation is raw. Am I being dramatic? No, I wish I was over-exaggerating. But unless you have lost someone you love intimately, and they die right in front of you in the most avoidable death, and you are trapped with the last image of them in your mind, their limp blue body, you cannot call me dramatic.
People ask me what it's like being in Bowling Green after Stone has passed. For me, it's empty. I see people around me go back to the way things were, and I'm left trying to keep up. Bowling Green has been a home to me, but it should have been a safe space for Stone too. It's all bittersweet. I walk around campus and am reminded of memories that we spent together. Policies have changed for the benefit of students, and I still hear complaints. Complaints from my peers about how Bowling Green has gotten too soft and we can't do anything fun anymore. Let me tell you this. Forcing your brothers and sisters to do tasks for you in order for you to feel superior should not be fun. That is hazing. I watch freshmen move into Offenhauer, excited for their first year, and I'm jealous. My heart aches at what could have been. My first year of college was tainted, and I have to live with that trauma for the rest of the time that I'm here. I see students heavily intoxicated every weekend, and I fear for those that don't know about the dangers of alcohol. I see Stone everywhere. I see him in the faces of the innocent boys that are going through the pledging process. Every single spring semester for me aches. I wait and wait for it to be over because I'm on edge, praying that there won't be another victim like Stone on this campus.
Bowling Green was once my dream. I knew I wanted to go to BTSU when I was a sophomore in high school. I visited plenty of times, and by the time I stepped foot on this campus, I felt like this is where I was supposed to be. And it was until March 4th. We don't want you to be like us. We don't want your dreams to be torn away because of some careless, selfish frat boys that killed somebody you love. We don't want you going back to school and getting no sympathy from your college. We don't want you to have to transfer schools because of how closed-minded the students are. To us, we lost someone special. And to the students at the time, they lost their favorite frat party. Things still trigger me. When someone dies, especially when they're young, you're constantly reminded of them and how much life they still had to live. Even 2 years later, I get a whiff of his cologne from a stranger, and I turn, expecting to see his face and his arms outstretched to hug me and tell me he is okay. And instead, I am met with a stranger's soft nod and acknowledgement of my empty stare in his direction, and I feel like breaking down. Stone's death affected the college. It affected his high school, his community back at home, his neighbors who always saw him outside, his classmates waiting to see him in class, even the boys in his fraternity that actually liked Stone, and most importantly, his friends, myself, and his family. Every one of you has parents. Imagine them getting that call. Look at the person next to you. Imagine you need to call their parents and tell them that they have lost their baby. My heart hurts for Shari and Cory, who raised Stone. Watched him grow, sent him off to a place he was supposed to blossom. And all of those nurturing and loving and sleepless nights raising a child, stripped away by one singular bottle of liquid that they had no choice but to drink.
Stone was hazed far before the event itself. This occurred by the names he was constantly called, remarks that were made on his interests and other deep wounds. You may think, my skin is thick enough for that. Stone was just sensitive. But honestly, everyone has a breaking point. When has the pestering gone too far? But we sugarcoat hazing, renaming it to this modern day term. But it isn't just hazing. It is the deliberate attack on someone's mental and physical health. It is abuse. Someone you love could be the next one on the news. When you see hazing, no matter how mild it may appear, address it. Stand up for the people who are affected. Give Stone the voice he never had. Give the parents a chance to see them have their family. Give the siblings time to strengthen their bonds. Give the significant other more time to love them.
Stand up for new pledges. Stand up when you see someone that is scared. Hold each other accountable. Hold the college and the administration that continue to overlook hazing accountable. And save the next person who needs to be saved.
So we just heard a lot from Maddie and Megan. You got to experience what they experienced on campus, and you get to learn about their experience that night. Overwhelmingly, what I heard in that story was, I'm seeing college kids drinking every night. I've become desensitized to students puking and vomiting, and that just seems normal. What we're going to talk about now is Alcohol 101. You guys are in college. There's probably some of you sitting here saying, Alcohol 101, yeah, I'm in class 501. Well, are you really? Because stuff like this is still happening on campus. So let's review some of the facts. We're going to talk about binge drinking, and we're going to talk about alcohol poisoning, and we're going to talk about overdose. After all, alcohol is a drug, and it's time that we start using drug vocabulary with it and talk about overdose. So this picture makes it look pretty cool. The Budweiser commercials with the cool horses makes everything look cool. But let's really talk about what's going on with the science. Let's discuss the numbers. If we take a look at this picture, which one of these things, by show of hands, do you assume has the highest alcohol content? Who thinks it's the natural light or the beer? Anybody think it's the beer that has the most alcohol? Nobody? What about the wine? You guys see the wine? Anybody think it's the wine? A couple people are voting for the wine. All right, we've got Truly and White Claw, which seems to be the drink of choice on campus. How many of you guys think that contains the most alcohol? No voters for that? Couple voters for that? All right, well, there's bourbon in the middle. Who thinks bourbon is the strongest drink on the page? Okay, overwhelmingly, everybody's voting for bourbon. If we take a look, the alcohol content in all of these drinks is actually the same. So in our illustration that Cory's going to show shortly, we're going to talk about the bottle of Evan Williams. But what we need to understand as college students is that the White Claw that you're consuming, or the beer that you're consuming, or the bourbon that you're consuming, by serving size, all contain the same amount of alcohol. So let's truly understand what you're putting in your bodies. Maddie and Megan talked about binge drinking. Binge drinking is defined by having 5 standard servings in one evening. I'm not going to ask you for a show of hands on this one, but I suspect many of the students in this room are binge drinking, and perhaps on this campus are binge drinking every weekend. So let's talk a little bit about blood alcohol content and the effect of alcohol on your body as you're consuming this alcohol. But before we do that, does anybody in the room have an understanding of how alcohol gets into your bloodstream? And this is an important thing to understand, but if I said blood entering, or alcohol entering the bloodstream, does that come from your kidneys? Anybody think kidneys? You guys feel free to raise your hands. What about the liver? Anybody think it's the liver? Alcohol's coming into the blood from the liver? All right, so the kidneys and the liver are obviously associated with consumption of alcohol, but they do different functions. Where alcohol really enters your bloodstream is in your stomach. So your stomach is the key organ in your body that's delivering the alcohol to your bloodstream. Why is that important? Why am I pointing out anatomy in Alcohol 101 class? Because it's important to understand when you're drinking, especially when you're binge drinking, and you start counting the number of drinks that you've had, those drinks in your stomach aren't digested yet. So as you're feeling this or as you're feeling that, guess what? You are on a time delay because your stomach is full of alcohol that hasn't yet hit your bloodstream. So by the time you're feeling it, whatever is remaining in your stomach is going to continue to accelerate that effect on your body. So let's take a look at just some basic numbers here. When we look at the effect of alcohol on men and women, it's very different. And if we look at the size of the average male and the average female, obviously differences there that have an impact. So when we look at blood alcohol content, as we said, it's the ratio of alcohol in grams to the blood volume. Dehydration may also lower blood volume. So why do we bring up dehydration in this? Well, we talked about what happened at the frat. We talked about the extreme exercise. We talked about some of the things that happened beforehand, the sleep deprivation. Some of you came right into this room from your practices, so you're dehydrated. Depending on what situation you're in before you start drinking has a major impact on how the alcohol is absorbed in your body. So let's look at a 2-drink scenario. So you, as a girl, went out with your guy friend and you guys had 2 drinks. What does that do to your guy? So 2 drinks in the guy with the average size, his blood alcohol content is 0.05. So we're going to use the scale of legal to drive or not legal to drive. Not really germane to this conversation, but it is a number that you all understand. So those 2 drinks, the guy he's 0.05. Technically, he's still legal to drive. The gal in this situation had those same 2 drinks, so we know that could be truly, it could have been a bourbon, or it could have been the beer, but those same 2 drinks, .09, no longer legal to drive. That's the difference in size. That's the difference in how men and women absorb alcohol. So again, we're not here to talk about driving. We're talking about overdose. So what does this mean? 0.4 to 0.5 blood alcohol content is an overdose, a likely death situation. Alcohol is a drug and a poison. Let's start thinking of what that looks like from a scale perspective. So go back to this scenario with the same male, average 175 pounds versus a female 130 pounds. We're going to learn a little bit more about Stone's situation. Stone that night consumed 22 servings of bourbon. Let's look at the lethal dose here. For a female, it's 10 drinks. The average female, 10 drinks is a lethal dose. The average male, 10 drinks gets them to 0.29. I'm going to talk a little bit more about 0.29 in a second. 15 drinks for the average male is lethal. Now let's circle back to what I heard Maddie and Meg say. They see binge drinking on campus constantly. Is binge drinking to you guys those 5 drinks? Is it those 10 drinks? What about in the Borg jugs that you guys are consuming? Yes, the old guy up here knows what a Borg jug is. What about those Borg jugs? How much are you drinking in that? So think about this 10 drink, 15 drink lethal dose. Now let's start to take a look at what these numbers actually mean to your body. So let's look at this first scenario where we had the 2 drinks at dinner. Relaxed, slowed reaction time. We start to get in a little bit of that slowed speech, maybe a little bit of loss of balance. But that's what people are going for, right? In the casual drinking, it takes the edge off. That's what you hear, it takes the edge off. Fine, stop at 1, stop at 2, but that's not what's happening on campus, and it's certainly not what happened in Stone's fraternity. When we start talking about additional drinks and we get to that 0.1 to 0.15, we start to be disoriented, uncoordinated. Start to see that loss of bodily control. Does that sound like what you're seeing on campus on these weekends when you guys are out binge drinking? It sounds to me like what Maddie and Meg described. What you're starting to see there is the beginning of the warning signs. That's when you need to be paying attention. The next step is the vomiting and the blackout. So uncontrolled vomiting, uncontrolled blacking out, or blacking out. So they pass out. They're not sleeping. They're not taking a little nap. They're not sleeping it off. They've blacked out. That's your warning sign. It's time to do something. Take action. The next part is sensory is severely impaired. So what does that mean? They can't walk, they can't talk, they don't have control of their body functions. And they're possibly heading towards a coma. So when you see somebody who can't form words, who can't walk, that is your last warning sign to make that call. You heard Maddie and Meg. Do something, call 911. Now's the time where you can actually take some action and help somebody. But what happens beyond that? It's that loss of consciousness. They're laying there on the couch. They've been asleep for an hour. They're not asleep, they passed out. Do something, pay attention, do something. They start to hit that point of potential death. Next, we get into difficulty breathing. If you've ever been there and you think so-and-so is passed out and they're snoring, they're not snoring. They're probably aspirating and having a hard time breathing. You must take action. So let's talk a little bit about what happened with Stone's fraternity that night. When we take a look at a liter bottle, that liter bottle on the table right over there is what Stone was given. That is 22 servings of alcohol. Cory Foltz, Stone's dad, is going to come up and do a simulation for us now, illustrating what Stone was forced to do that fateful evening.
All right, we're going to set the scene. So Stone was told that he needed to show up to an off-campus house, be there at 9 p.m. in your pin attire. So Stone needed to dress up and have a tie on. Stone shows up. They sit in the garage, they socialize, they start to talk to each other as the active members and alumni members start to prep things for the big little. Stone's then blindfolded, lined up with his fellow new members, and they're marched into the house. As they go in the house, they play loud music. As some would say, oh, it's scary Halloween music, or it's death music, or it's some kind of rage music. As they march them down into a dark basement with the lights off, active members and alumni are standing on each side of the hallway, punching them and shoving them as they're going down the stairs. They get to the bottom of the basement, line them up in front of their big brother, and they say, take your blind off. Stone takes his blind off, and his big brother's standing there holding the family drink. Now it becomes entertainment, and everybody's yelling, chug, chug, chug. Stone starts out, first shot. Second shot, feeling a little good. Like Jay was saying on the chart, and you can see up here on the graph, starting to feel a little good. Stone drinks 3. Stone drinks 4. Well, now if you notice, color's going to change. He's now not legal to drive. And it continues on. Chug, take another pull. Don't be a pussy. Come on, drink more. So as you see, we went from green feeling good, yellow starting to feel a little more effects, and we jumped quickly into red. 5, 6, 7, 8, and it just continues on in the red. As you see, he's potentially starting to vomit. There was trash cans lined up everywhere in the basement. I don't think the trash cans were there for trash. It's for everybody to puke in as they're chugging their beers or drinking their bourbon, their family drink. It becomes entertainment. It's funny watching them trying to drink, telling them to chug more. And then they're rewarded when they are drinking a lot faster or more. That's my boy. Yeah, he can do it. That's my little. And it becomes celebration. So now he's being rewarded to drink faster. Unfortunately, there's still a lot more to go. Stone's not finished with his bottle. As you can see, follow the graph. We're in black already. Lost consciousness, difficulty breathing. We're clinically lethal. When they handed Stone that bottle that night, it was a death sentence as soon as he had the bottle before he took his first drink. As Stone's finishing his drinks, sitting on the couch, not able to talk, not able to move, Someone hands him a bottle of water, and they're filming him. What are you, a mannequin? There's a huge sign right there. He has done lost all his bodily functions. But it continues on until he finishes his bottle. Stone finished his entire liter of bourbon in 20 minutes.
So now you have an illustration of what the big little night looks like. The big little night, as Cory said, started out as a death sentence before it even started. There was no way Stone could have finished that bottle and survived. In fact, what we're going to look at now, and I'll ask you all to pull out your phones and scan this QR code.
To have the volunteers come up here behind the table. I have 4 individuals that said they'd help me out. So thank you very much.
So we know.
Do you still have the app on there? Okay.
So we know Stone did not survive that night. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over on my iPad now, and we are going to illustrate for you what happened with Stone. And I would like you guys to follow along. If you haven't already entered your information, let's go ahead and enter Stone's. So we know Stone, male, and we know that Stone was having liquor, so we're going to go in there, and we know Stone had 22 shots. Cory, what was that time again? Less than 20 minutes.
Yes, 20 minutes.
So, time since first drink really doesn't relate here, but time since first drink in minutes. And the last thing we need to enter in is the weight, 145. What we know is Stone's blood alcohol content after that event was at 0.78. If we switch back to the iPad and we go, or to the computer, and we go back to our barometer, where are we on the barometer? Well beyond, well beyond. So now I'd like to talk to our volunteers. If you don't mind, introduce yourself.
My name is Shane Truss.
Shane, did you get your information in there yet?
Yeah, so I currently weigh 141, and if I were to have 22 shots, my BAC would be at 0.8%.
At 0.8%.
0.8%, yeah.
0.8%. Yeah. So, sad to tell you, you didn't survive that evening. You didn't make it. What's your name, sir?
My name is Hunter Orr.
Hunter, how did it turn out for you?
I did not survive. I had a 0.66.
So 0.66.
My name's Isabella Morrow. If I were to have 22 shots in 20 minutes, it would be approximately 1.03.
1.03. Sorry you didn't make it either. And your name?
Jenna Phyllis, and if I were to have 22, it'd be 0.92.
0.92. So unfortunately, we're reaching out to your parents, your family, to let them know that you didn't survive Big Little Night. I'm sorry. It's the tough reality. It's a tough message to deliver, but we have to understand the poison that you're putting in your body and the amount that you can absorb and the unrealistic expectations that Bottle Night has. And this is the illustration that I was trying to get to show on the iPad. So I think it's also important to look at this. It would have taken 53 hours to get back to a 0% BAC. So what does it say in the app? And I want to encourage all of you now to enter your information in and read what it says below. You're probably not reading this because there's a good chance that you're unconscious. This BAC indicates alcohol poisoning, and there's a very serious risk of long-term damage or death. If you or someone you're with is at this BAC level, you should seek immediate medical assistance. Did that happen that night? No. No. They proceeded to make fun of Stone, drug him to a car, drug him back to his apartment, laid him on his couch, took some videos, made fun of him some more, and left him to die. Does that sound like immediate medical attention? The point is, never leave anyone behind. You've got to stop their drinking, distract them, remove them from the situation, add food or water, and get them home safely. Stay with them. Never leave anyone behind. And most importantly, call 911.
So, call of action. With all that we've reviewed today, we're asking for you just a few things. The big one is we want you to stay safe. We want you to be safe on the campus. And we want you to save lives and look out for your fellow brother, sister, group member, or even a teammate. Look out for each other. Your life matters more than any group or any team. Hazing is abuse. It's senseless. You should see from what you've heard today that it can kill. Students, we want you to just stop hazing. Athletes, Greek life, just stop. It adds zero value. Zero value to your brotherhood, sisterhood, club, to your team. It adds zero value. It's up to you. You've heard this numerous times tonight. It's up to you to make the change. Students, help each other walk away. And if you're a friend or you have a friend that gets too far down the path like Stone did, and they just want to get through that last thing, this is it. Stay with them. Don't leave them alone. Don't leave them behind. If you're in that moment and you're strong enough, which we see this now, there's individuals that's starting to stand up. So stand up and save a life. Stand up and walk away if you're strong enough. Let's face it, terrible things are going to happen.
that how you handle them makes a difference. Sometimes between life and death. Call 911, take someone to the hospital instead of taking them back to their apartment and leaving them alone. Leaders of the fraternities, sororities, athletic group leaders, coaches, band leaders, club leaders, staff, and university leaders. We're seeing it every day in the media. Stop pretending it's not happening, because it is. We continue to haze our brothers, our sisters, our teammates, and our friends. Stop pretending it's not happening or it's not going to happen to you. Acknowledging there is a problem is the first step in solving the problem. In this case, it could be the first step that we're going to save lives. Thank you.
Okay, I promise we only have a couple minutes left. One of the things that we've done over the past 2.5 years is try to make our speaking engagements and our mission more in alignment. As a family, we're not positioned to go and speak at every university in the state of Ohio, much less the country. So we spent a lot of time talking about what we could do differently, and what we are starting is a podcast. This podcast is going to be factual, it's going to be to the point, and it's going to be about understanding what the process is like so that there's more information out there. You heard some red flags today. You heard about some different ways of hazing going on. The one thing I want you to understand is that we just need to get a larger reach. We need to tell more people about this. Every 4 years, your community is turning over. And we got to keep the message out there. So what I'd like to show you real quick is the trailer and a brief episode clip so you understand what we're going to do, and then we'll wrap it up. Subscribe if you can, but you had to read that real quick. Now, mind you, they're supposed to be going to school to learn, and they've got this going on, all right? How are students supposed to be safe on campus? I feel for these guys. We're going to continue to listen to what happens with the BG hockey. I want us to stay vigilant on this podcast for that very reason, because we need to continue to talk about it. Those of us that do Google Clips, what we do is we actually have hazing, or in the case of Stone, we put Stone's word out there, and death, right? And when you put those searches out there, Google provides you a list of all of the things that are happening hazing related every day. And that goes through our feeds, right? You send a lot of them, you see a lot of them. And when I saw the Bowling Green one, it made me stop, right? It made me think about, oh my God, we're back at this again, at the same university. And my heart stopped, right? And we're talking about anti-hazing week, right? So you're sitting here going, how does this all play out at the end? Could a coach be fired? Will the students be expelled? What about the victims themselves, which you never really hear too much about, right? Unless they die, like our situation. So hopefully everybody stays safe and is able to get through this. I hope it's not as extreme as what we think it could be, but we'll see how that goes. So with that, we're running out of time, unfortunately, but we're going to continue to do these types of podcasts for you. Our intent, our only intent, is to save lives, and what we want to do is talk about the actual things that are happening, the facts around them, share with you what we've unfortunately learned in a 2-year time span that it's mind-blowing, right? I mean, the amount of things that are still going on in the university world related to hazing. We need everybody to step up. For students, you can stop this. This is all on you. Stop doing it. For parents, don't think that it's something that's not happening to your child if they're joining an organization. They're keeping it a secret. We will continue to try to work on these type of things, making sure you have the latest information, and we'll share that. What we ask you to do, help save lives with us, and share and subscribe to this podcast. This is our last slide, I promise. Couple things we haven't asked for you. Fill out the survey if you could. The survey helps us make our programs better. It's not intended to do anything but that. So please take a couple minutes to fill that out for us. If you're in another location, there's an opportunity to describe which location you are currently enrolled. The podcast. If you could subscribe to this, send it to your parents, send it to any adult, send it to at least one other person. Our reach can grow. We can send a message out there to others so this doesn't happen anymore. We have one last video. It's from Stone's friends and his siblings when they first got through the whole pain and the whole process of the funeral and everything else, and they had one strong message for everybody.
What would you do?
What would you do?
What would you do?
What would you do?
Stand up.
Stand up.
Stand up and save a life.
So with that, I'd like the foundation to stand up. This is the end of our program. I'd like to give you one other piece of advice. If you can't call 911, you can text them. I know it's scary as hell that your friends might get in trouble, but text, okay? There's a lot of opportunity in getting that message out to somebody to get some help. Thank you for being courteous tonight and spending time with us.
Thank you again to all of you, Shari, Cory, and AJ and Jersey, for being with us tonight. We appreciate your willingness to share your story and your experiences. Stone's legacy will continue to shape our community for years to come. And in recognition, I would like to award this certificate for Stone in memoriam to you, Shari and Cory. We will honor his life and legacy, ensuring he is never forgotten. Thank you for your continued work in eradicating hazing. This concludes tonight's session, but there's additional information available on our website at bgsu.edu/hazing and on the tables located at each exit. The I Am Stone Foltz Foundation will also be available at each exit for questions. We encourage you to share this information with the groups that you represent, and thank you again for attending tonight.
Wait, I have one more thing. Don't forget the survey, but if anybody's interested in being part of a focus group and part of the podcast, just to talk about different things that are happening, please see me or Jay Richardson. Thank you.